But what I did know is that I wasn't going to be going anywhere in my current situation, so I had to get out of that situation and do something that was possibly going to push me forward. Talon.
Randy.
We're back.
Yeah, we are.
Just the two of us this time.
Just the two of us.
Ooh. Just a little short episode. Talon, why don't you tell him? It's going to kind of be about me, so why don't you tell him what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so if you guys saw the last full episode that we did for Lessons Learned, we kind of talked about Randy starting a new possible career, and it wasn't the main purpose of that episode, so we didn't go into it too much, even though we were really excited. And after that episode, we definitely asked him a lot of questions, and we were curious just to know everything that was going on. But one, he has a lot more to tell, like just us as like the other Lessons Learned members and everything, because he didn't have much time to tell us. And two, he might as well get it out to everyone else, because I mean, it's just part of his life, so why not explain it to everyone that's listening?
Heck yeah. And there's a underlying lessons learned why I wanted to talk about this too, so we'll get to that. But yeah, so for starters, for those of you who didn't hear it, I will be leaving my current job very soon, and I will be starting a job. So if you didn't know, I was a physical therapy aide, and now I'll be starting a job working for a railroad, and I'll be getting qualifications for promotions down the road. But for starters, I'm going to be starting off as kind of like maintenance mechanic, track crew, that kind of stuff, and then eventually I'll be working my way up to conductor and engineer. So a lot of people...
It's quite the career change, though.
Yeah, it is quite the career change.
Yeah.
But I really do think at the end of the day, it's going to be for the better. I think it's going to provide me a lot more opportunity, and I'll get into a little bit now, like what made me make that decision. So I've been in this job in physical therapy for about a little less than 5 years now. So I started that when I was 23, almost 24. I started that job. And at the time, it was a good route. I possibly thought about pursuing it, about maybe getting my physical therapy assistant, not physical therapist fully blown. Because it's just a lot less schooling, it's less responsibility at work, and the pay grades aren't a whole lot different. So part of why I decided not to do that was because there are some changes going on in the insurance companies right now. I'm not going to get into too much of that. It's a billing kind of thing, and they're going to change how they do their billing with physical therapy assistants. So my thought was, okay, well, it's going to be really hard for me to get a full-time job if I get my PTA. So that kind of leaves me with the decision, do I want to be a full physical therapist? Well, that's a lot more schooling. It's a lot more schooling than I was willing to do, and now I'm at the point where, now I'm 28, fast forward, we're 5 years later. I'm 28 years old. If I were to go to PT school now, I would be probably 36 or 37 by the time I finished school, with a ton of debt and just starting my career.
I never knew it honestly took that long.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a long degree. I mean, it wouldn't have been as long had I done it sooner, because I would have still had a lot of my credits, but healthcare credits expire after like 5 years or something like that. I'm beyond that mark from when I was in school. I'm at like 7 probably. So, we're well beyond that point. So I kind of got to the point where I needed to start looking for something different, and I really didn't know what that was. And I'll be honest, this kind of fell into my lap. I had a friend of mine who works at this place reach out to me and say, send me a resume. Eventually it got to come on in for an interview, and then things went from there. But I think one of the points that I wanted to make, well, actually, I don't want to get to that just yet. So Talon, what do you think what I said so far?
Yeah, so it basically just sounds like you got into a crossroads. You really had to make that choice: either continue on by being a full physical therapist, because beyond that, your career can't really go any further,
Right.
especially like with the insurance changes, like you were mentioning, or you just had to completely change your career. And I mean, just something falling in your lap, especially from a friend and everything like that. I mean, could be a great opportunity for you. So might as well. I mean, I even if it was something you weren't like too intrigued with or anything. I mean, heck, I why not at least try it, do the interview and everything like that, and if it sounds cool, and I
Right.
mean it clearly sounds good, like like cool enough to you that you, I mean, are going along with it. So
Yeah, and I mean, uh, I will admit I went a lot off of gut feeling with this, and when it did start to kind of seem like it was going to become a real thing, I thought to myself, does this feel right? And I thought, yes, I think this does feel right. So that was a big part of it. Also, you know, I mean, part of my problem, part of why I didn't leave my current job sooner was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I think, even at my age, and I think a lot of people, a lot more people go through that than, really people admit. And I think that's okay, because I think we've talked about it in previous episodes. You get thrust into this whole thing where, you have to go to college, and then you're 18, 17, 18 years old. You have to make a decision on what you want to do for the rest of your life. You're like, your brain's not even fully developed yet, and you're making a choice on what your career path is going to be for your entire life. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who picked something at 17 or 18 years old that they thought was going to be really cool, and now they hate their job.
yep.
So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to, in a way, feel lost. I think it's just recognizing that and doing something about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and at the end of the day, you're still in your 20s. Like, why not at least try different experiences? If it doesn't end up being something that you want to do long term, I mean, guess what? You can. I mean, it's still. You're. It's kind of better than like what you were doing before. It got you out of that situation. You're getting another experience. You're learning new skills. You can just take that on to something else if you want to, and just. I mean, if you don't end up liking it, just figure out what else to do next, because I mean, you already said it, it's not really being lost. Everyone's lost.
Yeah.
This is how life is. It's not just lost in your 20s like the episode we did. Everyone in life is lost. No one really knows what they want to do at every part of their life. I mean, everyone's confused and everyone's trying to figure stuff out together. So
Right. And we talked about, I know you and I were texting back and forth last night about this. And one of the things that I had said to you was, I don't know that this is going to be the right choice. But what I do know is that staying in the situation I was currently in was the wrong choice.
yeah.
So, it's like, I don't necessarily know that this is going to work out. I don't know that this is going to be the best thing for me. It is like literally a completely different career field than what I was doing. But I had to try. I had to try something. I was at a point where I didn't really know what I wanted to do anyway, so why not try this? The worst thing that happens is I find that I don't like it and I move on to something else and do something that was possibly going to push me forward. And that was the real big point I wanted to make, was that, you can't just stay somewhere because it might not necessarily be the right decision.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, yeah, there's the difference between taking the wrong decision and taking the right decision, and just like being a neutral decision. Like you said, you don't know if it's the right decision,
Yeah.
but you know what you were doing before was was a wrong decision. So
Right.
at least you're getting away from that decision, and it's just kind of giving you a blank slate, kind of, just so you can figure out what you want to do
Yeah,
next.
and I'm guilty of this as much as I think many people are, but I stayed in that situation for such a long time because it was there and it was comfortable, and I knew I had a job and I knew I had benefits, and like, even though I kind of knew that it really wasn't necessarily the right thing for me, it was stable. And I think people worry so much about the stability that they keep themselves in a bad situation where, who knows, maybe I do really like this. Maybe this becomes a career. Maybe I love this job. But what I did know was I didn't like where I was at.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people getting stuck in that same rut where it's just like they get used to that stability, they get used to that similar paycheck every couple weeks or whatever it might be, and they're used to those benefits. And a lot of people get in that situation where they know that they're not happy, but they just they don't really know what to do. But luckily, I mean, opportunities like this just happens probably pretty often for a lot of people. Sometimes people just decide not to take it, but luckily you decided to take it.
Yeah. Again, I think people fall into that rut because they don't have faith in themselves. And I think that's kind of where I was at, where it was like, well, if I do something completely different from what I'm doing now, like what if I fail? I think you can't look at it that way. Like if you don't like your situation, you're the only one who can change that. You have to do something about it. So saying to myself, like not having the faith to be like, if I move on to something else, am I going to be successful? It has to be like, no, I have faith that I will be successful, and that if this doesn't work out, I will figure something else out. And that's the attitude I took into this decision was, maybe it's not going to be the right decision for me, but it'll definitely help me grow and move forward. And regardless of if it works out or not, it's going to help me move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just stay stagnant.
Yeah, and even with that confidence and like just trying, like having faith in yourself, I'm sure it was probably still scary making those choices and everything. I don't know if you ever had any doubts along the way, like if you put in like your 2 weeks for your work or anything that.
I mean,
like, have you ever had any doubts?
Yeah, all of it was just awful.
Yeah, anything like this, I mean, it's going to be scary. No matter how much faith in yourself, you're going to be stressed.
Yeah.
You're going to be a little bit scared. It's just the way of it. But you need to do what's best for you, and that I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you did.
I'll be honest. I definitely over the past week and a half or so since this has unfolded had moments where I do a little bit think to myself like, oh, I really could have just stayed there, or maybe I should have just stayed there. But then I think there's a bigger part of myself now that says no. That wasn't the right decision, and you made the right decision.
Take the leap.
Yeah,
do it.
Take the leap. Yep, that's it. I mean, you gotta take that leap, because I gotta admit, and I'm gonna call out these guys again, and we're actually gonna have them on the podcast really soon. But Mike and Chris from Wandering Bus Dude on Instagram were honestly a big reason why I chose to make this decision, because I saw what they did. I don't want to get into their story too much because, like I said, we're going to have them on. They're going to tell it. But, they took a similar leap of faith into the lifestyle that they have now, and it's worked out great for them. And I kind of thought to myself, if those guys can do what they did, I can do this.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was a big part of that decision.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, even if you do fail, you can always rebound. Like that's just life right there. You can always come back from anything that happens.
Right. Exactly. So, I think the big point I wanted to make with this was have confidence in yourself, take that leap of faith. Don't stay in a bad situation because it's stable. Get yourself out of that bad situation, do something about it. Push yourself forward, and if your move forward sets you back a step, that's okay, because the next move forward is going to bring you forward again. That sounded really stupid.
Hey, I liked it, man.
But you get the idea. You get the point. It's about pushing yourself forward, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's scary, even if it feels unstable. You never know unless you try. I know it's such like a cliche thing to say, but it is because it's true.
Yeah, stress makes you grow as a person. So put yourself in those stressful, scary situations. Don't just let yourself be comfortable just because it's simple and you're used to it. Just put yourself out there, and you'll benefit from it.
I gained a lot of confidence in that regard from literally from the vacation that I just went on with Chris and Jared, because when you think about, again, we talked a little bit about it in the last episode that came out on going off the grid. And we're going to talk about it more in the episode with Wandering Bus Dude. But, we went into that trip with no plan at all. Everything was just totally up in the air. We didn't know where we were staying. There were so many unknowns, and it forced us to, really have to do stuff on our own. It forced us to have to figure stuff out. There was no comfort. There was no stability. And I think that also really helped me grow in that regard and help me push to make this decision to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to say it's kind of cool. Any of the listeners out there, it's kind of cool that you kind of get to see the evolution, like the story of like our personal lives as they've changed. I mean, I just last year I didn't even really know who you were, Randy, and then I learned about like your life and everything just by talking to you. And we did episodes on talking about your current career and your current situation, where you didn't necessarily like it. You didn't like all the things that are going on professionally with your, like how the organization was ran. You didn't exactly like all the things that you did, but I mean, look at you now. I mean, it's kind of crazy that we get to talk about this and we get to record it, just even for ourselves, let alone for other people to listen.
Right. And guys, for all the audience, we're coming up on like the 1 year mark. We're almost there.
Yeah.
And we have some cool stuff planned for the 1 year mark, and I gotta agree with Talon. Like, I think it's so cool how far we've come, not just as a podcast, but like how far we've come as friends, and like the things we've learned about each other and the things we've learned about ourselves. And we really can't wait to share all that with you, because there's a lot that you guys don't know about us. There's a lot that goes on, behind closed doors that just like we know about. And we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff in that episode, and just like how we've grown and the things that have happened and the things that have helped us push this podcast forward and have it be as successful as it's been. And it's really exceeded our expectations so far. And that's a lot because of you guys. But I'm going to give credit where credit's due. It's our own hard work and our own perseverance and our own story. So you're going to get to hear that story from us coming up really soon in an upcoming episode.
Nice. Give them a little teaser. Just dangle it there. All right.
Yeah, we'll dangle it.
Yeah.
And
so do you have anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I got one more thing before we wrap up. I think
is it
you
the main
know
point?
what it is.
Oh,
It's the main point. It's the main
Okay.
point of this whole thing. So one thing that I'm going to have to do for my new job, there's a lot of books and manuals I have to read. And I don't like reading too much. So hopefully, some of those books and manuals I can find on audible.com, which we have a link below, I'm pointing down, in the description for you guys to click. And if you go to that link, you will get Audible free for 30 days. And then you can download all your books and maybe some of your manuals. And who knows, if you're in school, in college right now, find some of your books on there. And then when you're studying, you can just listen to them. You don't even have to read them. Listen, take notes,
exactly.
Do well, get your degree or whatever, and send it.
Just send it. Yeah, I'm currently listening to the 4-Hour Work Week on Audible, so highly recommend it. Yeah.
Boom.
Highly recommend.
There you go. Straight from the horse's mouth. We're doing it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I don't have anything to block the camera, Talon.
Just turn it off. Turn it off fast. Just end it.
Hand.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And see ya.
See ya.
Oh, I put my knee on the desk.